This is DBrief, brought to you by the Australian Industry Group.
Welcome to an episode of the Summer Series of DBrief, the podcast that explains industry to policymakers and policy to industry. These 3 episodes are of 3 different panel discussions that were held at the National Press Club in Canberra in November 2025. It was held on the occasion of the launch of our report into 6 use cases of artificial intelligence in industry. This is Panel 3, Lessons Learned, from Sharmy Francis, Manager for Innovation at InfraBuild, and Simon Terry, CEO of Dux Hot Water, and facilitated by James Thompson, Lead in Standards at Australian Industry Group.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to share with you 2 of our case studies. We're looking at learnings, and I'd like to start with problems, what the problem was. But before I get there, let's just talk a little bit very quickly about the 2 organisations that are represented by the individuals here, being InfraBuild and also Dux. So both organisations have been around for something of the order of 100 years. Both organisations are very mature businesses. Both organisations are, household names most people will be familiar with. And so the obvious question that we can start with here is your average punter wouldn't necessarily associate both organisations as being particularly intertwined with technology. So Sharmy, if I could just start with you. Looking from a macro perspective, if I could just put to you, what is the importance? Why is InfraBuild involved in artificial intelligence? And I do appreciate that there are commercial sensitivities here, so I'm sure you'll be able to steer through that one. And then let's dig into the actual problem that you were solving with this bundle tagging machine project.
I guess firstly, InfraBuild should be a name that is a household name. It probably isn't, and that's probably the result of several name changes along with liquidity. So just very briefly, we are Australia's largest vertically integrated manufacturer of reinforcing steel. We're a foundational industry. We supply the construction industry with reinforcing steel. I say we're vertically integrated. Our business consists of a recycling division, second largest in Australia behind Sims, steel making, rolling mills, production, distribution, etc. Why is AI important to us? So you can imagine a company the size of ours. We've got approaching 5,000 employees, so many various moving parts to our business. There's data everywhere, and data should be our greatest asset. For a human to actually be able to wade through that data and make sense of it in a meaningful way is nigh on impossible. So how do we actually leverage that asset? It is an asset. Yes, it needs to be cleansed. Yes, quality could be improved, but that's not what this is about. This is about how do we get more out of that data? How do we leverage it? An example I'll give you is a really good friend of mine is a pilot for Qantas, a captain for Qantas. They're using AI to look at failures that are completely unrelated. So example, an entertainment system failure and a food heating service failure. How does that play out in an aircraft? Human can't actually do every scenario, but AI as a tool can accelerate the ability for us to make decisions. So what was our problem? So we've got many, many challenges or opportunities, but this particular challenge was all about improving the robustness of our traceability of the product and taking a step change in safety. So what we're looking to do is automate the product tagging of our reinforcing product as it's made at our mills. Now, our mills operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The product is, coming off the mill every few seconds. It needs to be traceable, so when it ends up in construction, if there is an issue, it's paramount that we actually know where it went, so that we can actually address it if there is an issue. That was a very manual process. It was done at ergonomically challenging heights. It was repetitive. It was very much a non-value add from an operator perspective, but something that is perfect for automation. It allowed us to line tie all of the information to the product and have complete traceability and improve our offer to the market in that we could stand behind every product and clearly identify this is what it was, this is what it's made, and this is all of the characteristics that go along with that. But it enhanced safety. Now, there's some challenges that brought about from a workforce perspective, and we'll cover that off later in this panel, I think.
Right. And just to clarify, that the product that we're talking about here, this is rods that go on reinforcing in concrete, so essentially.
So every road, bridge, building, tunnel, infrastructure project, residential product has mesh in it. That's our product. Yeah.
Thanks. Simon, turning to Dux, the starting point for your story, I have to say, was quite fascinating. It started in April of this year, as I understand it, and involved a restaurant. Can you just give us a quick rundown on the starting point, but specifically the problem that you were trying to solve?
Thanks, James. I literally stumbled onto AI, so I'm certainly no tech genius. In April this year, my son was heading out the door. He's a 19-year-old. And he was heading out for dinner with some of his friends. And just as he was heading out, he said to me, "Dad, a couple of people have pulled out. There's only 4 of us tonight, not 6. So, okay, mate, if you called the restaurant to let them know, they could sell those 2 seats. No, I haven't, Dad. Could you do it for me? I'm a P player. I can't connect to my phone. I thought, okay, I'll call. I can't even remember the restaurant, but I called the restaurant. And I quickly worked out that the person in the background was typing so quickly. She was typing at 300 words a minute. And I was speaking 10 words a minute, but I'm speaking to an AI agent. And I thought, this is amazing. And I said to my wife, I've not just spoken to an AI agent, so this is April this year. And she said, I've been speaking to them at David Jones for 2 years now. This is out there. And I thought, I have a problem, and this is a solution to my problem. My problem is we manufacture water heaters in Australia. We've done so since 110 years, but we sell them from New Zealand to WA. It's a huge span of hours. So if somebody wakes up in Auckland at 7 a.m. without hot water, they get pretty agitated. We answer the phone calls in Melbourne. We've got a team of 9. 7 a.m. Auckland is 5 a.m. Melbourne. I can't get anyone to work 5 a.m. Melbourne to come and answer a call. By the way, they're very hostile at the end of that phone. If you haven't heard the infamous Google Classic Ream helpline, and you'll see how crazy customers become when they don't have hot water. It is bizarre. But I also need to have the phones open for the closing per 6 o'clock per. So that's a spread of hours from 5 a.m. in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. Nobody will do it. So that is the problem. As soon as I heard the AI agent, my wife had been hearing it as David Jones for a while, I thought I have the solution to our problem.
And we'll look at the outcomes a little later. I'd like to just turn toward, I guess, the people dimension in both of your experiences, because I think that's probably the most important issue that we have when we start considering uptake of AI in any business. So, Sharmy, in your situation, how did you handle people? Because the obvious reaction is going to be, it's going to take the job. How did InfraBuild handle that?
So we were very clear on what we were trying to achieve. We worked with the operator or the operators that were responsible for that particular task. It wasn't their only task, so we're actually able to better utilise their time. They're also nearing retirement age, and one of the challenges we have is how do we attract the next generation of employees into our organisation to do tasks such as those. No one is coming out of high school, university saying that's what I want to do. So we worked with them to address, I guess, their concerns. Also highlight that it was addressing safety. They were operating in environments with moving product, moving machinery. As I said, ergonomically challenging. So many of them had various complaints, and this was all about addressing those complaints. But it was also demonstrating to them that their skills could be utilised elsewhere. So we were looking for a transition of skills from something such as a tagging operator to someone that could actually act as a software engineer or robotics, someone who's operating robotic equipment. Yes, there's training required, and we provide that training, but it's transitioning the skill to be more meaningful towards our sustainable and hopefully productive future. Yeah.
Okay, and Simon, in your situation, an AI agent being brought into the call centre probably would, more than most AI applications, raise that question of threat to existing employees. So what did you actually do about that?
So we communicated with them very openly and upfront. At the 2-month mark, we actually got a session one afternoon and put the AI agent on to show them exactly what it could do. And we just reassured them about their job. No one had actually any concerns about their job because we said, this is going to do the work that you don't want to do. The 5 a.m. call, the 9 p.m. call, and the responses we got were just incredible. It straight away went to sort of human self-interest. One lady said to us, does that mean I don't need to work Melbourne Cup ever again? Well, hopefully, yes. Another one said, does that mean I can go overseas for a winter holiday? She's been with us for 18 years. That's our peak period. She's never been overseas. I said, yes, it does. Well, we better deliver that now because she's put in her leave form next year, so I better deliver this. The other one is I quickly found how unpopular the Saturday shift is. Does that mean we won't have to work Saturdays? Yes, you won't have to work Saturdays. So for us, AI is about doing the jobs that people don't want to do. It's supporting them. No one will lose their job. We've got a small team. We've got 180 people. 1 in 3 of the people in our business, they're related to each other. So we're families. We're not only a manufacturer, we're a regional manufacturer. We've said, guys, the jobs are safe. One of the things we've been saying for the last 10 years, and we actually built a little workstation pod at our factory, the next person that starts, they will start at 5 a.m. Nobody has left that team for 10 years. So we had cobwebs on the workstation. I'm pleased to say we now have a data scientist there, a data engineer, a business analyst, and a supply chain guru that's redesigning our workflows. These are 4 jobs I didn't even know about last year. So certainly there's this reallocation of labour. We were very clear with the customer service people. You won't lose your job, but we're probably not hiring any more customer service people. And they got that real quick.
And this is one of the points we've made in our report, obviously, the new opportunities that are created with artificial intelligence. What's your experience been, Sharmy, in terms of new roles, new opportunities for staff?
Yeah, it's quite opportune. So in the audience today with our newest team member, Gabrielle's heading up our digital and AI team across InfraBuild. So look, we've quite advanced along this journey. So we've got a team of data scientists. We're looking to bring in more and more software engineers. It's all about setting the right structure in place. Along with structure, and I'm probably digressing a little, but it's also about having governance in place. So you need to be very, very clear on standards that the company will adhere to. So we do have a policy that's been ratified by our Audit and Risk Committee. We've established an AI governance team headed up by Gabrielle. But it is cross-functional. It's represented by all business units. It has legal and HR and procurement and each of the business units. Working through what the voting rights will be, and who will ultimately have final say, because business units will always favour their own initiatives. So we need an impartial, judgment to be made. So in terms of references there, it's all about having that structure in place to provide guardrails, not to slow, not to be an obstacle, to accelerate the safe adoption of AI.
Thanks. If we could just turn to the AI 6, as Lee referred to them from the National AI Centre. Number 6 is human control, maintaining human oversight and decision making. Could we just explore how that actually works with both your case studies? And Simon, I'll start with you. In our discussion, you did mention there was problems with hallucination. Not you having hallucinations, but the actual AI agent having hallucinations and the requirement for oversight and guardrails. How did that work?
Yeah, we did find that very early, which I'd never heard of. And I'll tell you some of the funny stories. About the second month in, I said, how's it all going? And he said, we bumped into a problem. And I said, what's the problem? He said, the bots, so the agents are starting to hallucinate. I said, tell me how. And they said, well, they have a mission. You've given them a mission to get you back in the hot water. So they're going out and searching the web and saying, hey, there's this thing on YouTube that this guy kicked the hell out of it, and that really worked. And we thought, whoa. So we put up some guardrails there, and we've actually now got a specialist in each category. So there's an electric specialist, a gas specialist, the solar specialist, a heat pump specialist, continuous like commercial specialist. They stick within their sandpit. They don't go out of their sandpit, and they can only reference the information that we provide them for safety. So we put those guardrails in. Every single phone call we transcribe. We have a voice recording. We listen. We're training every day. It's getting better and better. In terms of the average time, I was saying this a little bit earlier this morning, the average time for one of our human agents on the phone is 3 minutes and 7 seconds. The average time for one of our agentive agents on the phone is 3 minutes and 12 seconds. So they're very close. We've never heard the AI agent make a mistake yet. They're trained to an engineer's level, but we had to put those safeguards there, and there's absolutely human oversight on every phone call.
So just exploring this theme of opportunities. So I've heard you both talk about employing additional data scientists. If I could bring this very sort of close to home for myself, I've got a 17-year-old daughter who'll be going into year 12. We've had lots of discussions with her about her future career. She's looking at the moment communications and law, and she came into me the other day. She said, James, I'm cooked. I said, what do you mean you're cooked? So I sent her an article from one of the media outlets that painted a fairly negative picture about the impact of artificial intelligence on the future jobs. And she said, oh, AI is going to take my job. I said, no, that's not the case. Go back to ChatGPT and actually ask it, how can you embrace artificial intelligence going forward? And she did that, and she came back and she said to me, it said to me I should look at communication strategy, which is the theme that we spoke of earlier today. But if I could put to both of you at that question, what advice would you have for young people who are making decisions about their career? They're hearing a lot of negativity about artificial intelligence potentially taking their jobs. What advice would you give? And again, if we just sort of recap on the sorts of opportunities that have come out of both of your organisations for new jobs created by artificial intelligence. I can start with you, Sharmy.
Yeah, look, no doubt there'll be new roles. There'll be different roles. I spoke about data scientists. I spoke about software engineers. I think we need to take a step back, though. AI is simply a tool. There's a lot of misconception. It's a tool. It actually needs human oversight. And I'll bring up an example that I shared with James, some time ago, and a story that I quite like. Professor Stephen Foster at UNSW, when I had a conversation with him recently about the use of AI in the university and academic sector, and how they were approaching it. Do they have a ban, or how do they manage it? He said, no, we don't ban it. We actually embrace it. But the way they embrace it is really, really interesting. So they mandate that their students use AI, ask it a question, get a response. Now critique that response and work out how to ask the question in a different way to get a better response, and do that at least 3 times. And after you've done that, then go back and critique the response. So it's teaching the next generation how to use that tool. And that's all it is, a tool. So we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that skills and the roles that we currently perform are going to be augmented and supported by new tools. And AI is simply a tool.
Thanks. Thoughts from you, Simon?
University of New South Wales, the ATAR is 95 for data science and 75 for the University of Western Sydney. I would certainly have a look at that, because I said to my son 2 days ago, this is an industry that is going to be in huge demand going forward. Now, just if I can, James, a little bit about, we're an Australian manufacturer, and Australian manufacturers are doing it very tough. There was an article in the The Economist magazine, 8th of May, Australia is no longer the lucky country. And it's because of this productivity challenge. Our living standards are the worst they've been in 60 years. Australian manufacturer like Dux, our electricity price went up 65% 1st of January. Our gas price, we have businesses in Japan, China, all over the place, 11 other factories around the world. We pay 3 times more for our gas in Australia than they do. We've got these workers' compensation system that in New South Wales is broken. We pay $10,000 a year per employee for workers' compensation. I could give them private health insurance for that. We need a tailwind. There are so many headwinds. We need a tailwind. I see this as a tailwind. I'm very passionate about it. I don't want to miss it.
And that leads us very nicely into the next topic, because several months ago, I think in this very venue, Ken Henry made a statement. He said that Australian workers have lost about $500,000 of potential pay rises over the last 25 years because of the economy's abysmal productivity performance and policy paralysis. So if we could just start with that question of productivity in both the organisation, then it might be early days, but Sharmy, from InfraBuild's point of view, if you're able to share with us, what are you seeing in terms of that issue of productivity? And then let's look at what that means more broadly for Australia. So, yeah.
So we're looking at AI as a mechanism to enhance our productivity, amongst other things, safety, but productivity. So it's accelerating our ability to make decisions. It's not making decisions, it's providing insight to enable us to make decisions quicker and faster. It's important that you're very, very clear on what you're actually trying to achieve. Narrow the scope, be crystal clear, work towards that goal. Don't get distracted by scope creep, because you'll never end up achieving the outcome. But achieve that, focus on the goal, get the outcome, and then learn from that. Because every time you deploy AI, you're actually picking up additional insight that you weren't previously aware of. And I think that's the power of this tool, that it's actually opening the door for us to actually expand our thought process and our horizons.
Disposable wages in Australia have grown 1.5% over the last decade. The OECD average is 22%. We had our enterprise agreement with our workforce this year. Out of the 180 workers, about 100 of our workers are on the shop floor. We've got a fantastic union. We never have a blue with the union. We actually have aligned goals to keep our people safe. But I remember getting up in front of our workforce, probably the same number of people that are here. All of them built like Innes. They're all big welders down in the New South Wales Southern Highlands. And I had to get up and talk to them about productivity. And I said, from 1997 to 2024, inflation has gone up 101%. Guys, I've paid you 158% over that period, well above inflation. Going forward, if you want these pay rises above inflation, I need a productivity dividend. And they're absolutely with us for the journey. We're doing smart things now. It's good that they're listening. The rest of Australia needs to do this. If you, Louise was talking about that Reserve Bank article, the bulletin that came out, in fact, I think it was actually this month, from Joel Fernando. And it shows where Australia is sitting. The IMF have got a chart. And it shows adoption of AI up the y-axis, and then it's got trust and acceptance on the x-axis. And up here, right at the top right, you've got China, India, Brazil, Turkey. You look for Australia, we're right down the bottom left. We are very slow to adopt this. We don't trust that. We're very late to the party here. We can't be left behind. I cannot miss this tailwind. Australian industry can't miss this tailwind. We need it. I think it is the only tailwind that I see coming for Australian industry. The National Artificial Intelligence Centre should have 1,800 people, not 18 people. I agree. We need to be showing the rest of Australia how to do this. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. The rest of the world is doing it.
Yeah, and I guess we would have to agree with that. And I was talking to Martin Ripper before about some potential new initiatives into the future about how we can work, I guess, with the National AI Centre to really lift that profile of artificial intelligence. And indeed, this is why AI Group is on this journey, because we are trying to encourage our members to look at AI, to embrace it responsibly, but to use it to lift productivity. So overall, we're hoping to tap into those tailwinds. Could I just focus on maybe outcomes as a subset of productivity? So I think we're sort of getting a general picture of those outcomes, but could we just be a little bit specific? So in Dux, what are the specific outcomes that you can point to with the embracing of AI? And I'll answer the same question.
Two parts. In terms of the agenti via the call centre, we can now answer a phone call when our customer needs us, not when it's convenient for us to provide that service. So 24/7, you've got an issue, you can call us. In our business, we are transitioning to Microsoft 365 F&O, and Microsoft's been mentioned a few times here today. We will have Copilot agents in our business crawling over our inventory, our demand planning, our scheduling, our cash flow to make sure we provide better outcomes to our customers. It's about being better, doing more with less. That's what we want AI to do.
Sharmy? So in our example, we've de-bottlenecked our process. The facility is now not limited by that particular function. We've enhanced safety. We've improved our robustness. So we don't have any product tags that actually go missing on a journey from Sydney all the way over to Western Australia. It's all line tied, so the traceability is now 100% accurate 100% of the time. But more importantly, I think we've changed the mindset of our workforce. We've actually got a desire to actually bring in more automation, more data analytics. We're attracting the right talent. We partner with universities. UNSW is one, Monash is another. I can tell you 3 years ago when we first interacted with Monash, not a single person there knew who InfraBuild was. I was at a fair, I don't know if Oksana's here, but she joined us recently. And of the 70-odd students that we interacted with, every single one knew about InfraBuild and were asking about career opportunities. So we are changing the narrative, the landscape. We're attracting that next generation of talent to our business.
Could I just ask you a question? In our discussions leading up to today, you mentioned a really interesting point that the implementation of artificial intelligence in InfraBuild has created much more data, and that data then has created more opportunities. Are you able to expand on that a little?
So when you set out to achieve a particular objective with a very large focus, sometimes you're blinded or blinkered by the opportunities that may unlock. So often that data is when you actually take the time to analyse it, is actually showing you some trends or some indicators of areas that you should investigate. And that's exactly what we've found. We've been able to actually use existing process, gleaning data from that to actually start to focus in other areas and provide optimisation opportunities. But I say, on the one hand, it's providing that. We are very deliberate about narrowing the focus to ensure that we actually achieve the first objectives. We don't want to be paralysed by the opportunity because it gets too broad. You'll not achieve anything. But it's just unlocking the insight for us to actually explore other opportunities.
And Simon, one of the interesting outcomes that you mentioned to us was the bilingual, multilingual nature of your agentic agents, and you relate the situation to me that your interactions with the Japanese and how a little bit confused with the word yes.
Yeah, I didn't realise until last week. I've been invited by a Japanese parent company to go to Japan in 2 weeks to present what we're doing to the business. They have exactly the same problem, whether it's Japan, China, the US, wherever they are. And I thought, how do we demonstrate this? So I had my translator there and I said, okay, let's start talking to our agent in English and then you start talking to it in Japanese. So we did that and seamlessly the agent reverts to Japanese with an Australian accent. And the Japanese at the end of every sentence say, hey, hey. Well, the agent thought they were speaking English again. And it's hi. So it was reverting from Japanese to English. But for us, the beauty we've now discovered, if your first language is Arabic or Vietnamese, well, now we've unlocked that for you after hours. You can speak to it in Arabic. It's a little bit slower. It still needs some fine tuning. Most of our people, even though we say up front the first sentence, I'm not actually a real person, I'm an AI agent, believe they're speaking to a human because we make it human-like. It says Now, I went to our engineers and said, I've just had a chat with Jess, and she said, They said, well, you say Well, I say all the time. They said, well, we've made it human-like. So it joins language like that with the word but it's making it human-like.
You should probably explain to people who Jess is.
Jess is our AI agent. So her job is to take your call. She has two things she needs to do. She needs to get your model number so we can put you in the right sand pit, and she needs to get your serial number. She needs to do that so we know every single component that went into that water heater so she can give you the best advice. So that's her job. Then she passes you off to the sand pit.
I must relate an interesting anecdote here. The reason Simon is sitting up the front is because he demonstrated just to us after, I think, a meeting we had with the New South Wales Building Ministry out the front of 52 Martin Place. But what was interesting is that we were standing around his phone and Jess asked him, can you tell us what the serial number is on your hot water system? Simon did not miss a beat. He actually has memorised the serial number on his hot water system. I think he'd be the only person in Australia that's memorised the serial number.
I'm calling Jess every day as part of the training. I'm trying to trip her up, and yet she's passed with flying colours. She's amazing.
So if we could just turn, I guess, to sort of that question of advice for others, because again, as mentioned before, our group is very keen on spreading the good word about artificial intelligence to our members and encouraging our members to take it up. And given that many AI group members have yet to start their AI journey, what advice would you both give them based on your experiences today? Sharmy, if I could start with you.
So I've already said start small and narrow the scope. I'd say a key is be prepared to fail fast and learn from the failure. Don't let that be a stumbling block. Be prepared to fail and be prepared for outcomes that you didn't expect and opportunities that you didn't expect. You'll be on a journey and you will achieve your goals, but there'll be so many other opportunities that come from it. So, move fast, be prepared to fail, and be open-minded.
I probably couldn't say it better than Sharmy there. I completely agree with that. I don't like reading articles saying Australia is no longer the lucky country. We need to get onto this before we are left behind. The world is going a lot quicker than us. We really need to get onto it really quickly.
And if I could just pick up on that point of being prepared to fail, did that entail a change of culture in your organisations? Because, it can be very difficult depending on the nature of the culture to admit, it didn't work. So did you have a job to do with the culture before you could sort of embrace that notion of being prepared to fail?
Look, in many ways, leading innovation is all about failure. Failure is typically the outcome of innovation until you actually find the right recipe. Examples, 3M probably have 33 failures before they have success. Organisations need an appetite for failure. It does cost money, but the rewards are tremendous. Now, we are very fortunate that our CEO, Francisco, is probably the biggest supporter of innovation in our organisation. So maybe it's the right person, right time, but no real change from a leadership perspective. It's taking others on the journey.
Many people probably in this room would have seen that McKinsey report that came out and sort of said high performers in this space want to be chasing growth, innovation and cost, and we are certainly doing that. In the last 2 years, we've launched 2 new products with machine learning in them. That is now 10% of our revenue. Products that weren't invented 2 years ago. We really see water heaters being smarter, more connected appliances, watching your usage patterns, making sure you have hot water there when you need it for the lowest possible cost. In terms of cost of living, that's where we see this going.
And a final question, just to close this panel off. Looking back on the journey that you've both been on with artificial intelligence, is there anything that you would have done differently? Simon?
I don't know if I would have done anything differently. Go sooner, go harder. I'm very pleased that I could come today and contribute to the discussion because I'm banned at home. My wife refuses to ever mention artificial intelligence again, and I've nearly lost my son. So in terms of my message, go sooner, go harder.
Yeah, I'll echo what's just been said. We really should start sooner. So if you haven't started, start. It's moving quickly. You need to be on the journey. If you're not on the journey, you're going to be irrelevant. So get started as soon as you can.
All right. Well, thanks very much for your thoughts. Really appreciate your time. And if I could make one observation, certainly at the event today, that I find consistently that people that are involved in AI projects, involved in I guess, advocacy are very passionate people. And one of them across here is Rita, Lee is another, and I do appreciate the enthusiasm that you both have, and I'm sure that AI Group will have many more case studies and many more initiatives in the future. So thank you both. Well done.